Malaysia just hosted the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting in Kuala Lumpur. Mr. Marco Rubio from the United States was present. The Foreign Minister of China, Mr. Wang Yi, was also in attendance. Mr. Lavrov, the Foreign Minister of Russia, plus several other foreign ministers from other major powers were all in Kuala Lumpur. But what really went on behind the closed doors? I think there are 5 outcomes which are pertinent for us to remember. And outcome number 5 might surprise you. So stay with me. Outcome number 1, ASEAN has managed to prove its centrality. Centrality simply means that ASEAN wants to tell the world that insofar as Southeast Asia is concerned, it is the main player to be consulted. And ASEAN has done it. It has shown that it is the most essential platform for Southeast Asia. You recall, there are problems around the world. The leaders who attended this meeting, they have to deal with those issues from their homes as well. So they need not really have to be present here. Mr. Wang Yi, Mr. Lavrov, Mr. Marco Rubio, but they all did. They all came to Kuala Lumpur. That tells you that ASEAN has been recognized as a main or the main essential platform for Southeast Asia. And that is proof of its centrality. The second outcome is that ASEAN has managed to cement Southeast Asia as a regional diplomatic capital. Well, the media doesn't frame it this way, but think about it. New York and Geneva, Vienna and some other capitals too. These are diplomatic capitals. Many diplomatic meetings take place in these cities. But these cities are also important places where informal meetings takes place. And this is precisely what happened in Kuala Lumpur. And as reported in the press, Mr. Marco Rubio had bilateral meetings not just with Malaysia as a host, but also with Mr. Wang Yi from China, with Mr. Sergei Lavrov of Russia. Similarly, the other foreign ministers as well had their own bilateral meetings with each other. There was a hive of bilaterals taking place, and these are vital contributions to regional diplomacy. And this can only happen when Southeast Asia is recognized as a diplomatic capital. And I think ASEAN has managed to cement itself as one of those important capitals. The third outcome is preserving regional peace and stability. To my mind, this is the hardest job of all, but it is the least appreciated because the region has been always peaceful and stable for so many decades now that people don't realize the kind of contribution that ASEAN has brought to the table on these issues. South China Sea, for example, this is a place where conflict is never far away. Anything can happen anytime. But despite all that, ASEAN managed to commit itself to continue to negotiate the peaceful resolution of the issues with China over the code of conduct. In Myanmar as well, ASEAN committed itself to the 5-point consensus, recognizing that progress is slow on the ground on both these issues. But, there were no drama, no conflicts, no negative outcomes. But critics, of course, will say that ASEAN had failed. They would say that ASEAN did not resolve the South China Sea conflict because there's no code of conduct. They would say that it failed in Myanmar because, the situation is still raging over there. But what failure really looks like is when there is a war at hand, when people are killed, when jobs are lost, when stability and peace is gone. But Southeast Asia, you don't see any of those. So it has actually contributed to peace and stability in the region. But there's also another thing that has been happening very quietly. ASEAN has also agreed to admit Timor-Leste as the 11th member. This may seem very small and insignificant, but what it simply tells you is that despite all the tensions and conflicts around the world, ASEAN has been able to get its act together to completely incorporate every single member of the region as its member. And that counts towards maintaining the stability of the region. But those are achievements that everyone expected to see, you would say. But what about the things that almost no one was watching out for? The fourth outcome, well, I think this is one that barely made it to the headlines. While all eyes were on the big players, very quietly on the side, Malaysia and the United States signed a memorandum of understanding on civilian nuclear cooperation. Yes, when you look at it, it is simply a bilateral matter. But I would say it's also a signal coming from the region. Why do I say that? Because ASEAN has been quite cautious about incorporating nuclear energy within its matrix of energy sources. The incident in Japan, the Fukushima reactor accident, further created concerns in Southeast Asia. But I think times are changing. Vietnam already has a 1-3 nuclear agreement with the United States. The Philippines has a memorandum of understanding as well with the US on civilian nuclear cooperation. Indonesia is exploring it, and now Malaysia has signed an MOU with the US on civilian nuclear cooperation. Slowly, ASEAN is laying the groundwork for a nuclear future. Well, it is this kind of bilateral deals that that become the nuts and bolts of regional architecture. But I think eventually this is where ASEAN is probably going to go. It's probably moving towards a regional approach towards nuclear energy usage in the region. And the fifth outcome, I think this is probably a difficult one to accept, is that the issue of trade and tariffs, a real big millstone around ASEAN's neck, was still unresolved. The ASEAN ministers went together for this meeting, hoping to be able to collectively press the case to the US. The US heard, they acknowledged it as well. Their concerns were expressed in the joint communique. The Prime Minister said the same in his speech, but it did not move the needle. Mr. Marco Rubio, acknowledging the concerns by the ASEAN ministers, said that the US was still open to negotiating, and he welcomed the ASEAN members to continue their negotiations with the US. And yet there was one revealing moment. In his press conference, Mr. Marco Rubio revealed that Mr. Donald Trump might attend the October ASEAN Summit. In my mind, it wasn't a casual remark. I would think that it is a signal that the US is waiting or maybe hoping that ASEAN would collectively make an offer, something that it would be able to bring to the table. For ASEAN, it raises a hard question. Well, like they say, be careful what you wish for. Is Southeast Asia as a region able to collectively come to some kind of offer that it can put on the table for the consideration of Mr. Trump at the summit? I don't know. But that's the outcome that Malaysia will have to manage. And I think that's the real test. To recap, these are the 5 outcomes coming out of Kuala Lumpur. Number 1, ASEAN has proved beyond doubt that its centrality is essential. Number 2, ASEAN has also shown that Southeast Asia is an important diplomatic capital. Number 3, ASEAN has proved to be a competent manager of regional affairs. In short, it can be counted upon to keep the peace and stability in Southeast Asia. And number 4, Southeast Asia could be signaling towards a nuclear future. The 5th outcome, unfortunately, this is the one that is unresolved, which is about the trade and tariffs. The issue here is that is Southeast Asia going to be able to collectively come to a position to make an offer to the United States? So what do you think? I would love to hear your comments. Please put them in the comment box. And as usual, kindly hit the like button, please, and share the video and subscribe to it as well. Thank you very much.